I'm gonna take on the most ambitious cosplay I've done before and become a monster from Rogrigo Sousa's animation Playground.
Recently, I took on a project of redesigning my old creatures I drew, based on Rodrigo Sousa's monsters, so I can make an animation of my own. And I thought, cosplaying as the iconic smiley fanged monster would be a fun challenge and a way to express my Halloween spirit.
The reason this cosplay isn't anything like the ones I've made before is the huge amount of testing and planning I did beforehand. Usually I have my idea, I make my things, but when I test them out, it's on the day of filming, which can be great but can also result in disaster, which is a story for another day. But as the deadline looms and the day of action approaches, I wonder, was this all enough? Also, hi, I'm Ghost Ship. This is part 2 of a series, so if you haven't checked it out, you can watch it here. You might be wondering why I'm still doing this if I'm stuck in an attic. Well, that's because no calls will go through, I can't handle the deafening silence, and apparently my friends are traitors. Let's get into it.
Like I mentioned before, this time I actually prepared before my cosplay. I came up with a detailed plan on how I would do the makeup and tested it out. I also decided I'd take on a sewing challenge. Since becoming fascinated with cosplay, I wanted to learn how to sew, not to mention that sewing is a great zombie apocalypse skill. So I thought, why don't I sew some elbow-high gloves and attach some claws on it so I don't have to struggle to get them on my nails, or use fabric paint on my arm. Face paint on my arms, sorry. First, I focused on my face makeup, figuring out how I was going to do things like the lip and forehead. A 3D element I've never attempted before, at least not successfully. So I scoured through YouTube in search of help and found these videos. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to do this cosplay, so thank you Thunderbolt Sue and Bunny and Fawn. So on a chat with my friends, I worked on my face makeup. I won't show you it yet, just so I don't ruin the surprise. On the other side, I worked on the gloves. I consulted a sewing expert, my mom, who gave me a pattern, showed me how to read it for the glove I wanted, and told me to cut out the fabric. Specifically that I needed stretchy fabric. First, I traced the pattern onto this, I think it was transfer paper, since my mom didn't want me to lose these patterns. I also attached more paper onto the patterns to make it longer, remembering that I want it to be elbow gloves, and that these are a little short for that. Then it's fabric cutting time. I pinned the fabric down, weigh it down with this little bird weight and candle weights, and then I struggled to cut it out using this cutter that kind of looks like a pizza cutter and fabric scissors. Then it's dyeing time. Originally I was just going to dye the base a darker color and leave the fingertips that light gray like the smiley fanged monster has. However, after being encouraged by two friends, Izzy and Fifi, I decided to do more of an ombre transition, leaving the fingertips still alone. I watched a video on learning how to dye fabric with just fabric paint. Basically, you just water down black paint, dip them in several times. This at first doesn't get the ombre, so I increase the concentration of black and try again and again, and eventually it's there. If only it stayed there and I didn't decide to move them, getting black specks on my mom's white shirt. I spend a considerable amount of time trying to fix my fuck up, and while it's not super noticeable, it's still an issue, and I'm lucky my mom is very forgiving. It's also now that I notice how I've ruined more things doing creative projects as an adult instead of as a kid. Or maybe that's wrong, and I've just gained more awareness as an adult. Anyway, don't these ombre gloves look so good? Well, don't get used to that. I watched the video and it said to heat seal them, but I didn't. I was given a suggestion to wash them first, and I don't begrudge this person at all because I love them and they're awesome, but I washed it and it blended into one color, and I decided this will be the color of the gloves now. If only I had an airbrush, but whatever. So now it's sewing time. My mom will show me how to do it, and then I will hopefully replicate it on jersey, one of the hardest fabrics to sew. Hey, I did sew one thing on Eloise. It was a straight line, but it's something. And no, that wasn't captured on video. The camera died. Anyway, let's get into it. Oh no. It's okay. Let's try again. Nope. Okay, so turns out her machine needs to be serviced. At first we tried fabric glue, but that's still not working, so I say fuck it. This is taking way too long and throw out the gloves entirely. I will sew something in the future for a cosplay, but maybe I need to find a sewing boot camp and then make a cosplay centered around sewing, and or a little stop motion character centered around sewing that matches my cosplay, or vice versa, for a cute little animation. Anyway, Days pass and it's time for the day of filming. My original plan was to have my amazingly artistic friends who helped me with props, help me with makeup and filming, and while we were faster this day shooting the scenes leading up to the cosplay, 100% of that day decided to go wrong. I will talk more about that in my behind the scenes of this series, but power outages weren't slowing us down. But by the time I was ready to do my makeup, it was already too late for her to stay. But I decided I would take on this momentous task on my own because I wanted to be done with filming so I could get these freaking video series out. So I did, starting with the first task, blocking out my eyebrows. My plan originally was to have makeup on other parts of my face being done at the same time, but because of my lack of extra arms, I knew this would take much longer. I also got to thank this eyebrow blocking video, which taught me how to do it. The process involves covering your eyebrows with Elmer's glue and using a spoolie to brush your eyebrow up. Repeat this process 2 more times and your eyebrows are officially blocked. You're also supposed to clean your eyebrows with alcohol first, but I forgot to do that. Oh, don't forget to cover them with transparent setting powder. I forget to do this at first, but I do it later when I'm working on the lips. Next, I draw the mouth of my monster on my face as a guide. If I did it again, I draw the mouth going closer to the eye. This is not something I noticed until later in the process, but I think the shape is pretty good. Now it's time to make the lips. I paint latex on my lips with my fingers and tear tiny bits of toilet paper, gluing them down in the lip guide. It's important to note I have latex on a separate paper towel. I should have used a bowl, but I was too lazy. If you use latex, you don't want to dip anything in the actual bottle or it'll be contaminated. I'm pretty sure it won't last as long. So whenever you're using latex, pour it in a separate bowl and dispose of the leftover when you're done. My original plan was to do 3-ish layers near the center of the lips and 2 near the edges, estimating that that's what I did basically last time with some tweaks. But I kind of just kept adding till I felt right. I also honestly got really tired, and between that, I just kind of stopped when I was like, this is good. I finished filming around 4 a.m., guys. With the lips done, I start building up my forehead creases using the same way as I did with the lips. Now it's face paint time. I just realized I forgot to mention you gotta clean your face first. I'm pretty sure I did that. Anyway, I start by making pink rings around my eyes, then darker green rings around that. Then I paint the lips using cream paints, which I believe are oil-based. I don't know. Anyway, I cover the lips in the middle, bottom, and partially on the top with a darker blue as a shadow. Then I fill in the rest of that white space with a light blue base coat. To apply the paint, I use a brush, brushing the giant lipstick-like paint and then brushing it on my lip. I also noticed when cleaning my brush, it feels, I think, oily, pretty thick, so that's why I think it's oil-based. Then I cover my face and chest with light green paint. I decided I won't be covering my arms or hands because, fuck that, I don't want to. I already got a shower at like 4, like I'm in college again, hustling to finish a project, and I have work in the morning. I will say the goal is to not go over this paint again when applying it with more paint, because then you just kind of rub it off. So the goal is to get everything down in one go, but I end up having to dab it a bunch and I go over it a little bit with painting, but I think the result looks pretty good at the end. I also need to do more cosplays that don't involve face paint, and oh damn, I'm already thinking of some cool ones that have face paint as their major themes. Darn. Anyway, after covering my face, neck, and chest, I cover it with a transparent setting powder to take away any shininess, then it's shading time. I use the Fetish palette Le Petit Mort because I have it, using dark green lightly to make the nose, then I use it with more pigment and a heavier hand to shape the nose, looking at the picture of the monster for reference. Then I add that darker green under my brow and near my eye crease. Then I use that same dark green to emphasize the forehead creases. Then I add dark green under the lips and under my jaw to emphasize both. I also add some shadows above my lips to emphasize the cheeks and in that little dip in your neck. Next, I use light green Maybelline matte color tattoo stick because it's light green and cheap to emphasize my cheekbones. After applying it, I do my best to blend it out with a brush. I also use it to emphasize my forehead bumps, my chin, and the light parts under my neck, blending them all in, careful not to mess up my latex bumps. Then I use my Maybelline shadow box. Wow, I didn't realize I had so much Maybelline. Trust me, it's just a coincidence. I use the light pink in my block I have to highlight my crease of my eye and on my upper eyelid. I also use 2 dabs on my nose. Next, I want to make the shadows deeper using Maybelline Black Shadow to shade on the sides of my nose. And under my nose where there's this little line on the final monster picture. Blending with my finger and a brush, I end up ditching that brush to switch to the Maybelline brush to go under my mouth, on the dark green ring, and under my neck. Next, I sharpen my pencil eyeliner and I use it to draw the circles around my eyes, the eyelash, and the little line under the nose. I did fuck up the line on my eyes a little bit, but like my dad always says, the enemy of good is better, and I don't want to fuck up what I currently got.
Before the final reveal, I want to quickly say I hope you guys enjoyed watching my cosplay process. If you did, please consider dropping a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell so we can learn more about art in a fun, nerdy environment. Let's get into the final reveal. Again, I really hope you liked this video. If you want to see more, you can check out my Tiefling cosplay or the monster design video that started this all. And if you want to show some more support, consider joining my Patreon. You'll get access to high-resolution PNGs of behind-the-scene art, time-lapse set art, your name at the end of new videos, and more. Speaking of, it's time to thank my spooky and salty patrons. You are the bravery that steels me against the sounds that go bump in the night. Until next time, I will retire to my corpse-like slumber. Bye.